Hello peeps, Donna here. What is this? It's a chevron bead. Yeah, and that's what we're gonna make in today's tutorial. Okay, now just in conditioning my clay, there were a few bits of blue in there, and look how blue this turned. So I am gonna estimate that I can use a lot of this. Do a little bit of this, okay? Now, where's my cutter? Help me. Okay, here's a cutter. All right, so I'm gonna start with 4. You see, the thing we don't want to lose, and you know what, yeah, this is like pale blue, but this isn't one of those things that requires like weighing out one part over another. It's like, I don't think it needs to be that precise. So this is 4 parts. Let's do 5. Let's do 5. And the thing is, I want to make it as translucent as I can without losing the intensity of the blue. Okay. My clay, my blue clay is so old. And as a matter of fact, my translucent is quite old because you guys might not know this, but I use really old clay a lot. I have a lot of clay that's really old. I do. And I use it. And I used it even before we had our wonderful conditioning bar. You know, I just worked a little harder at it, but it was fine. It is fine. Okay, getting there. I'm thinking this might be a good thing, but you know what? I'm gonna do a little baking test to see as well, because the translucent, remember, has that kind of yellowing effect a little bit. And so I'm gonna cure this. I'm gonna cure a piece of this, maybe just that much, and we shall see. Now you can see what it looks like between these two. The translucent will get more translucent, but you know, that is not the color, the finished color I want. This is actually the finished color I want. So I'm just gonna do a little experimentation to get to the proper color. So let me bake this, I'll be back. All right, so I went ahead and I made several more ratios, okay? So this is 5 translucent and 1 blue. This is 4 and 1 blue. And this is 3 and 1 blue. So I hope you can see the difference between them. Maybe not. From my perspective, of course, this is a deeper one. It's deeper, it has less translucent. However, when you look at it, and I think this is the correct one, 3 to 1. But when you look at it, you can see that the blue itself is very different. This is a very different blue than this one. So I think I'm gonna add some violet to this blue, okay? Not a lot, it's not gonna take a lot, but I think that the violet is also going to help us when the clay cures and the translucent yellows, right? The violet should reduce the yellowing. Okay, where's my cutter? Oh, here it is. Okay, so I decided 3 was correct. 3 is correct. And then let me put 1 blue in, and let me put half, just half of the violet in to begin with. And let's see how much the violet deepens the color. Okay. Put definitely. I think it needs the violet. It does need it. Because that blue is not the same blue. Yeah. Plus it will help us with the yellowing. It should theoretically help us a lot. And this is much closer to the blue. Oh, can you see the difference between the two of them? So I'm going with this. I'm not even going to do another test. So my new proportions are 1 part violet. This is now 2 parts blue and 6 parts of translucent. Okay, so you see how that goes. The smallest portion you use becomes the part. 1 part, 2 parts, 6 parts. So let me mix that up and then we'll be ready for our first row. All right, so the first thing we have to do is make the core, because with these chevron beads, it has, well, this is what it looks like. It's a white core, like a rod, and around that rod, we've got triangles. Now, as I've drawn them, they are equilateral triangles. I have a clay gun that extrudes triangles, but they're right angle triangles. So I find that the angle, the right angle, is a little bit too wide like this. What you want is something more along these lines, not like right angle. So I will form these by hand. The core and these little triangles are white. So let me condition my white, then we will start making the core. So I have rolled my clay out to setting number 3. As you can see, it's a rather long strip that is probably about 2 inches wide. Okay, I am seriously going to try not to make a huge cane. Yeah, I don't like designing things so that you guys have to use tremendous amounts of clay. You know, if you make something and it's kind of manageable, kind of small enough, and you understand how it's done, then by jingo, you should be able to do it again, right? So this actually looks like a good-sized core to me, so I will cut a bevel. Let's roll this together. Trim the ends so that I have about a 2-inch rod, like so. Let's heal up this the way we do by just whipping the clay over to close it, like so. Now my white clay it really feels great. You know, it's not too soft, it's not too hard, it's reasonably fresh, but it's not right out of the machine. So this is really what I like. I like the way this feels. The rest of the clay is really old. You guys don't know. I have some really old clay. I think I'm working with some clay that might be in the 5 to 10 year range. Yeah, I think I am. That's old clay, isn't it? So I want to make this as round as possible. This is the core. Now around this, we're going to have our triangles sticking out. Okay, so now I have to take the remaining white clay I have from my first pack, and hopefully I'll be able to make as many triangles as I need, although in looking at it now, it's looking like I'm gonna have to go into a second package of clay. Yeah, I betcha I do. I think I'm gonna have to. All right, so let me condition more clay and wrap it around and make a larger cylinder. I'll probably make a cylinder that is, oh, I want to say another maybe 50% larger. And that's what I'm going to reduce into a very long triangle snake. Okay, I'll be back. Okay, so I conditioned more white, about half a pack, a little more maybe, and wrapped it around, and this is what I have. Now this I think is probably going to be more than I need, but I would rather have more and reduce it out and then not have to stop and do more, okay? So that's what's going to happen there. But I want to show you, and maybe I should have done this before, but better late than never. This is actually what a real chevron bead looks like. And the part we're doing now is this right here. See where the hole is? That's what we're doing now. Okay. And you can see that in this particular bead, we have a white core. It's wrapped with that really, really dark blue. I don't believe that's black. Then you have a thin sheet of white, then red, then white, and then finally the crevices right here, because there'll be spaces, are filled with the blue. All right, so we're going to make ours without the hole. We put the hole in later. Okay, so let us reduce this. And you know what? I will shoot this, but I will also speed it up from now. All right, so it's getting very long, and so I'm going to stop now because all you're seeing is the middle, okay? But I've got to make this finer, smaller. It's still too large, okay? So I'm going to continue reducing, but you saw some of what happens here. Now my work surface is limiting me, so I'm going to cut it in half. And I'm going to have to do it in two separate because my table, my work surface is not, it's not open. I mean, I can't do it. So I'm going to have to do this in pieces, which is probably what you're going to have to do too, I'm thinking. All right, so I will be back when I get this down to the size I want. Okay, you can see it's already, once again, getting longer and smaller. Okay, all right. This will happen very quickly. I'll be back. All right, let me cut a piece off the end and let's see if that's a good size. Okay, so that's actually not a bad size. It could be smaller, but you know, the smaller it is, the more of them there are, which is not a bad thing or a good thing. It's just a fact. Okay, now in the bead that I showed you, there are quite a few more, which means that the triangles were quite tiny. Yeah. So I think I'm going to leave mine. I'm going to reduce these snakes just a tiny bit more, not making them really, really teeny, but a little bit smaller than this one. So I'll keep this aside as my comparison piece. I will continue to reduce these a bit, won't take long. Then I'll be back. Okay, so my reduction is done. On the left, what I've reduced down to, and on the right, what I originally showed you. All right, so let us cut our triangle strips into pieces this long. Okay, it will help. Don't know how many I need. I will just start cutting. And cutting. Let's move these guys over and continue to cut them. Okay, that is strip number 1. Let us put the pieces on the cylinder like so. Okay. Oops. Hair. Now, you know what will help me? I am thinking. But once again, I do get into trouble when I think sometimes. Let me take this guy and let me send my needle as straight down through the center as I can. So maybe I don't have to touch it as much because I'm working in the round. You guys know this. I'm just working in the round. So let's see. Now, as I told you, my white clay it feels really great, but it's a little bit softer than perhaps might be a little bit easier if it were just a wee bit stiffer. Simply because you have to touch everything, right? So you want to try to butt it right up against there. Now, if I don't get an exact fit, I'll just kind of adjust them, because you can also put them together by overlapping like that. Okay, let's try the side by side first. I'm not really pushing them down hard, so I can still pick them up. But the way I make stars, for instance, is I overlap the points like so. I would overlap them like that. We may be okay here, though. Might need one more. actually, am I going to, yeah, I might need to just kind of squeeze the last two in. Perhaps like, kind of like so. So there's a slight overlap. And one, oh, I have one left. So maybe you just kind of fit it as you can, like that. So that's not too bad. That's not too bad at all. So this is the first layer. Now you see a lot of spaces and stuff. Yeah, you know, I get it. But if I hold this and push on this side, chances are I'm gonna flatten something on the other side. So we're going to be wrapping this with a sheet of clay. When I wrap, I will push that sheet down into the areas between the points. Okay? Let me trim some of this from the back. You know, as I trim it, maybe I will try to get everything kind of snugged up better than it is. Needle kind of gets in the way. What am I gonna do? Nothing. Because at this point, it's not like the most critical thing, if you know what I mean. Try to keep the points. But if you really look at the actual beads, the real ones, well, they were glass. So I think that working with polymer clay, you have a much better chance of making things sharper, even sharper than they did. I could be wrong, but that's what I think. Okay, maybe I'll just, okay, here we go. Yes, what separates us from the animals is the ability to use tools, right? So let's just kind of push the opposing ones in. This is easy if you have an even number. If you have an odd number, it could be a little bit more difficult, but every cane is a little bit different. So you're gonna do whatever it takes. All right, so let's leave this as it is now. It is waiting for the blue. Look, I have all of these guys left. I have a whole bunch of white left. All right, I'm gonna roll that into a sheet. I'll be back. Now, let's wrap this, okay? So I've measured it, and it is a bit more than 2 inches. So what I'm going to do is cut this strip. This is 2 inches. Let's cut it that wide. How about that? That gives us, actually, I will, nah, that's not important. Okay, so this should be plenty wide enough. So let me cut a strip like so. And I'm gonna thin it out because I think this is rather thick. This has been rolled through setting number 1 and it is quite thick. So let's roll this through, let's say setting 3. 3? Do I want 3? No, setting 2. All right. Okay, so now it is this thick. At this point, we start the process of wrapping. Okay, let me cut a nice clean edge. Take this and insert it in there, like so. And then it's gonna have to go in and out and in and out. And this is kind of the tough part, because you've got to take it Actually, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna, see, I'm on my needle, so let me just push it into that clay and just kind of work it around like this. Hold it and push it in, and then rotate it and pull it around again. And push it in again, like so. Something like that. Let's start by just wrapping, I guess. I'm telling you, sticking it in this wad of clay is helping me out quite a bit. So I'll start by just anchoring around this side. How's that? Like so. Like that. And then turn, kind of push it in at the top there. And then turn, do the same thing. Finally turn, and we're back to the beginning. Like so. Now, of course, it's got to be cut. It just has to be cut. So let's just start by trying to work the clay down along the cane itself. Secured this one side, but certainly not the whole piece. I'm going to cut this. I'm going to go straight down like so. Hopefully I have cut properly and it looks very good from my perspective. Okay. So I'm just going to try to push, just as we did before when I was trying to push the opposing points, like so. Something like that. Now let's take it out. Now, obviously, it's not done. Because what I have to do now is take a needle tool and push down. Maybe I'll hold this way and just really push that clay down there. Turn, and I am just holding the white. Okay. Rotate. And just keep pushing the blue clay down into the depressions between the points. Here we go. Now, I can only imagine how difficult this might be if you were working with hot glass. Ooh. What do you think? Okay, so this is where I started. So I'm just really pushing that clay down in there. Okay, so how are we looking? Pretty darn good, I would say. Now, sharpening the points is not all that important, but you might want to run your fingers up and down like this just to do what you can to sharpen them again. Okay. Now the next thing we must do is wrap with a thin sheet of white, and it will be thinner. Okay. Well, let me tell you, I am sharpening the points, and it just occurred to me that there is a reason why you want to sharpen them, and that is because we are going to be wrapping with white and then with red before we fill. You know what? Every time we wrap, the points get a little rounder, right? They kind of round out. And they would be very round if you didn't take just a few minutes to refine them a bit. I mean, it'll never be like really, really, really sharp, but you know, it's better. It's better. Okay. I think that's not bad at all. Not bad at all. Okay, so let me roll my white sheet, and I think I'm going to make it pretty thin. Maybe about 4, and we will wrap it around, and the process will be the same. Okay, excellent. All right, so I rolled this through setting 3. I'm tempted to go through 4. No, whatever I do, I'm going to have to remember, because I've got to wrap this, then I've got to wrap red, then I've got to wrap white again. So let me make this thinner. I don't see any reason why this has to be 3. This can be 4. It's going to stand out just fine. Okay, so I'm going to start this at a different place. Let's start at the point here. You know what? I'm just going to kind of leave a little bit there. I'm going to wrap this around. What do you think? What do you think? Just like that. Okay. Now, let me get rid of the excess with my little blade. My blade. It'll be kind of easier to trim. From here, I think, I hope I'll use scissors. Yeah. Okay, so theoretically, it should be simpler. Okay, so let me just lop a bunch of clay away. There. Okay. Now I'm just going to try to get it down as much as I can, like so. Basically, it's a repeat of the process. My little scrap clay stand is working nicely. Not fancy, but it does the trick, right? Okay, let's push that in. Now, I'm going to take it out. I got some extra to trim away. I'm just going to use scissors. Yeah, why not? Why not? Works. Okay, so remember what we did last time? Of course you do. This guy. Hold on. Hold on. Push down and push. No, I think I've seen chevron beads in different colors, but this is very traditional. This kind of traditional red, blue, white theme. Okay. And, yeah. I think I've seen green. But as I said, this is pretty much a traditional chevron bead. Would have red and blue, and it's always the blue on the outside, right? The blue and the white on the outside, and the red is some layer closer to the core. Yep. Okay, I'm gonna sharpen these babies up a little bit. I don't know why I'm humming a Christmas carol. Ay, 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 ay. Okay. Now, I have not mixed the red yet. The red could be translucent. I think it probably is, but the lazy me says, just condition up some red, Donna, and forget it. And then the other me says, throw some translucent in there. It can't hurt. And it could make it better. This is what we have so far. See? And if I could say one thing, I think the white core is a little large. As it turns out, I thought it was pretty small, but as usual, I have made bigger than I expected. It's still not going to be a huge cane. It'll maybe this big around. Okay. Thing about chevrons, though, is the whole cane is used as a bead. Okay. So you reduce it out, you cut a section off. You don't work off of a scrap clay core. So let me take my red clay, and let me add some translucent, but I'm not going to go crazy with the translucent in this. Maybe 1 to 1, maybe. And I think I'll only mix half a package of each, because basically all I have to do is go around one time. Just one time. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take half of this, mix it with half of this, and then I'll be back. All right, so here is my red strip. I have rolled it through setting number 2, so it's a little bit thicker. And we are going to start again. I'm going to start right there. And again, we're going to wrap. Come on, get in there. Get in. And, you know, as it gets like, as you work around, you know, you can take and just push the clay in like that. That helps too. Swivel. Push the clay in. Like so. Push it in like that. Maybe I'll use my thumb. It's the process is not difficult, but it's a little awkward. I got to admit it. It's just a little awkward. But, you know, not impossible, just awkward. Okay. All right. Let me take this out. The most helpful thing is my little clay stand. Seriously, really helpful. Let's just cut some excess off. I'm not exactly trying to trim it exactly. I'm exactly trying to, you know what I mean. It'll do for now. It's gonna have to be trimmed away. Once again, let's just push the clay in, like that. All right, now I'm gonna try, I'm gonna do my best. Okay, let's do that. And let's see what I have to trim here. Okay. Come on, you get up just a little. Maybe I'll try to cut this kind of along here, which is the point of this guy, like so. Lay that over a bit, pull it back. I have transferred it. Take my scissors and cut it. Now, let's bring it together at the point. Okay, so it might not be perfect, but it's not terrible. IMO. IMO. Not terrible. Might not be perfect. Okay, so let us continue. Push it in, push it in. Rotate, push in, push it in. Push it in, push it in, all the way around. Just hold it at the end. Okay. Hold the white ends, and then you won't smash the points. Okay. Now, I feel like the hole is getting larger. That's going to happen, I guess. So just kind of do your best. All right. Not unhappy with that. Okay, so now pinch the points. Pinch the points. The next thing we do is we wrap with white again. Yeah, it's been a long time since I made this cane. It's a good one, though. It is a good one. Just have a nice long beading needle or doll needle like this. And a wad of scrap clay. Okay, so it's reasonably sharp, I think. All right, so let me roll my white clay through setting number 4 again. We're gonna wrap, and then we're gonna wrap it with blue. Yeah, it's a lot of this kind of wrapping. We're gonna wrap. And you know what? 1 ounce of red. It was actually, yeah, 2 ounces, and this is what I have left of the red. Okay, boink, doink. All right, I'll be back with a sheet of white clay. Okay, so I'm gonna wrap it with white. This has been rolled through setting 4, so we're gonna do this. And you know what? I bet you don't really need to see me do this again, do you? I don't know. I'm gonna take this one, I'm gonna wrap it around, I'm gonna do exactly the same thing. And then I'm gonna do it with blue. A thin sheet of blue. Here's my deal. You've seen me do this. I'm not gonna show you this again. Okay? Just do exactly the same thing. White, setting number 4, wrap it around, push it in, sharpen the points, and you know what? I'll be back. I'll be back. All right. So the next sheet I'm gonna roll is this blue, but see how thin it is? I rolled it through setting 7, and that's where I'm going to roll it. This is going to go all the way around. Then after that, I fill all these spaces with the blue clay. Okay? Now, this layer is very thin because what we want to happen is when we reduce it, we want the white to show through it. And that's why it's thin. Okay? Now, I can probably do one of these numbers. Oh, let me scoot this back. It was running away from me. Anyway, so that's kind of the point. And that's why we want it kind of thin. Okay. I think I need to do something about my wad of scrap clay because it's not wanting to exactly hold the clay anymore. Okay, let me just get rid of some extra because it's really truly in the way. Look at that, it's like a little skirt. Like so. Okay. And now, let me see what's happening. This can go over, I would say. Over, like so. Just go over the top of that point. And I will just cut along here. That'll be fine. All right. So the same thing kind of happens here. We're just going to push it down. Now, I have a whole bunch of extra blue at this end, and it's kind of in the way. I should have trimmed it. That's okay. I can cut it away. It'll be fine. Alrighty. Okay. Let's see my wad of scrap clay. Oops. It fell. It fell. It's okay. Let's just try to pinch like so. I will put this back on my needle tool in a moment. Okay. Should I put it on my needle tool? Yeah. This time I'll put it on my needle tool. And now, push the clay down in, and if you have air bubbles, try to push them out. Yeah, when you wrap really thin clay frequently, you get air bubbles. Air bubbles. So be prepared to pierce them and push them out. Oh, I'm sticking myself all over. I pierced myself with my needle, then I stuck myself on the end. It's a good thing I'm a tough old broad. Okay, so I bet you know what time it is. It's time for us to sharpen the points just a wee bit. Okay. Now, this, I'm not sure, is that just a bunch of extra clay? What is happening there? I think I'll move you off like that. Okay. Now, as thin as that 7 was, I'm hoping that I shouldn't have rolled through 8. Seemed thin enough to me at the moment. All right, now this is what we have so far, and it is now my job to roll triangle canes and fill these spaces with the blue clay. So let me take all the, I think I mixed too much. I'm thinking maybe I mixed too much, so let's see. Let us see. I will start by taking this and making triangle canes. Okay, I'll be back. Okay, so rather than actually roll triangle canes, it's actually easier for me to roll cylinders. And I hope they're the right size. I didn't really measure. And then cut wedges like so. Like that. And then pack with wedges. Now, might have to stretch them out a bit. Like so. See, that wedge is too big. I really just want it from here to here. And see how far beyond that one's going. I didn't cut them particularly evenly. So let me just see if I can make it fit. Like so. See? So I'm going to do my best to make them fit that way. All right, so there's one. There is one. Now, I'm not going to push it in yet. I'm going to wait until I get them all in, so then I can push the opposing wedges. Does that make sense? You guys know what I mean. To close it up. And that one is actually a little bit large. See, on this end, so maybe something more along these lines. I'll take this. See, I cut it so crooked, but it may come in handy. Yeah, there we go. There we go. Vernon's talking upstairs. Anyway, so you guys get the picture. I'm just going to take the wedges and I'm going to reduce them, kind of change them until they fit. Okay? So I'm hearing them talk. Okay, so I'll be back. All right, so here you see the wedges that I put in. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is just push the wedges in. Right? Just push them down in. Like so. And I'm pushing on the opposite sides. Like that. And just push, push, push. Push, push, push. I'm just trying to get the points to push in like that. Okay? Really fill the space inside. Okay. Now this next part is important. Now I've pushed in, but I don't want any of this blue clay to close up around this area. I just don't want that. If I cover it up, then we'll never see the white lines through the blue. And that's a really important part of these beads, is that along the points in the beads, you will see the white underneath the blue. Yeah, so it's important that I trim any excess away that might cover and go over all of these areas, okay? So that just means I'm going to take my blade and I'm going to start slicing away anything that I think is extra. Okay. Now when I go to reduce and push it down, some of this will migrate over, right? It's going to migrate over, but I can make sure that I cut away enough that it doesn't cover. Hello?
Hello?
I'm recording.
Oh, I gotta look at the breaker box.
Okay, I'll be back. Okay, I'm back again. Now, I want you to look at what I've done so far. You see? I just sliced away a whole bunch of clay next to the points, right? Now, this I haven't done yet, so let me do that with you. I stand it up. Then I take my blade and I just cut straight down, trying not to cut through the point, but to cut on both sides of the point. Now, I can't always do that. Sometimes it's, you know, uneven or odd. But, so there you see, I just sliced away at both sides. I still need to do more slicing though. Let me take this down and let me just continue just a wee bit. Okay. Like so. Maybe all the way down here. Okay. And now you can see that even if I reduce it and push that clay, it's probably not going to cover the point, which is the goal of this whole thing. Okay, so I'm just going to keep slicing. I'm trying to make it round as I slice. So it's rather coarse, but I'm getting the job done. Okay, just like that. So it is quite important that you do this so that when we reduce and we make the beads, we have that nice white line exposed. Otherwise, they don't really look like chevron beads to me. Okay. Now, my only worry is that that setting 7 wasn't quite thin enough. It was thin, but my fear is that it wasn't quite thin enough. And we'll see. I'm just going to reduce it until I can see it. So at the end of the day, I may be able to make larger beads, but by the same token, I may end up with very tiny ones if the white does not show until I've reduced this a lot. Okay, I don't know what's going to happen exactly yet. I would say that I probably should have reduced, or I should have rolled and wrapped that blue, that last blue, on a thinner setting, but we might be okay. Just something for you to file away. See, I just cut some. I just cut some away. I'm not worried about that. I suppose I could cut a bit away, but I would really like to see the white through the blue rather than just seeing the white. And that's why it is quite important that I slice away enough so that I don't add more blue to the points. Okay. Okay. Yeah. All right. So I think this looks really good. I think this looks good. And I have a ton of clay left. Yeah, look at all this. I could make another whole cane. I will make the adjustment. I will make the adjustment. You can mix half, easily half of the blue. Okay, so let's get started on our reduction. Let me just cut a tiny bit more. Just a tiny bit more. Okay. I really, really, truly don't want any of this blue clay to migrate over the point. Because if it does, I can't do anything about it, can I? At that point, it's too late. Too late, baby, now it's too late. Okay, peeps. Okay, peeps. My peeps. Okay, I think I'm probably gonna start reducing right this very moment. I'm scared. No, I'm not scared. I'm not scared. I can do it again if I have to. Okay, so let's do it. So let's start reducing. Got the hole in the middle. Got the lime in the coconut. Eat them all up. Got the lime in the coconut. Got the lime in. I'll be back. Okay, they're done. Thank God. They're done. Maybe they won't bug me anymore. Okay. Okay, you guys ready? Put the lime in the coconut. Put the lime in the coconut. The lime in the coconut. Okay, reducing. I'm reducing it. Let's put the lime in the coconut. I said, doctor, is there nothing I do as a doctor to relieve my bellyache? You know, it feels really good. It feels most excellent. So let's just start choking the top. I'm choking. No, I'm choking the bottom. Lime in the coconut. I really liked these beads. I did this as an article for Bead and Button. Yeah, it was my only Bead and Button article. At the time, I was having to write so many instructional articles, so I had a lot of articles going out to jewelry crafts and, you know, and not so many with Bead and Button. I don't exactly know why. I think it was just a little more difficult. Like, they had different kinds of demands that I couldn't really do. I don't know. Anyway, so this was like the one and only bead and button I did. And I drew my instructions and they said, no, we don't take illustrations. We need photographs. And I said, well, I'll just send them anyway, and then you can tell me. And they used my drawing, so I didn't have to shoot it. And you know what? I was glad, because at the time, it was film. It wasn't like digital, which is now so wonderfully easy to do. That's why I'm talking to you. It was, yeah. At the time, you had to do everything with film, and I guess I could have had Vernon do it for me even then. That was that many years ago. I've always liked to do things myself. It just kind of stops me sometimes, though. I don't quite know when to stop and say, help me, help me. It's kind of... Uh-oh. I'm just going to go forward. I'm just going to do it. See, look at you guys. Can you see the white? Can you see the white starting to see these lines? That's what we want. We want those white lines as we reduce. We want the white to show through the blue. And it is. And I'm glad. I'm glad. Okay. Now, I guess I should stop right now, and we should try making a bead on the largish side. Let's try making a largish bead. Okay. But yeah, you can see the lines, and that's what you want. You want to be able to see the white through the blue. Now, do I think it could be better? You know what? I think setting number 8 might have been better. Thinner might have been better. Although, I'm not unhappy because at least I can see it. Now, if at this point I couldn't see any of these lines at all, then I would have to continue reducing until I see them. Okay? So probably the ideal diameter is a little bit thinner, which will make the lines even more prominent. Okay, but I want you guys to see, you can see them. All right, so let me stop here. I'm going to cut because now we're going to make beads. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, I cut some off, you can see. So let's cut a little bit more off until we get to the good part. That's pretty good. And let me cut a piece off. Okay. Set that aside. I haven't done this in a very long time. Okay. Thing is, we're going to have to cut, okay? We cut, and that's what makes it look like a chevron. Where is my blue blade? My really sharp blue blade? Where did I drop you on the floor? Nope. I don't know. It's hiding. It's hiding. I'll probably find it later, but I'm not going to stop. I'm going to take this guy. He's not as sharp, but let's start slicing. Man, it's been a long time. I don't even remember how I sliced. What was the easiest way to slice? I can't believe it was just slicing like that. It had to be. Huh. Let's try slicing like this first. Okay. That's it. So you're going to use this kind of action, and you sand it after, okay, to refine all the cuts you're making. But this is the way you make your chevron beads, kind of like that. Now, I suppose you could just bake it and then sand it, but that to me seems like so much like work, like unnecessary work. The more you can kind of slice off, the less you have to sand. And the sanding too will expose more of the white. Okay. I don't have a formula for this because obviously you just saw me just have to like kind of figure it out in my head myself, because I don't remember exactly what I did. I mean, look, it's been 30 years. That's kind of a long time. So, and you know, one of the things about like real chevron beads is they tend to be a little bit on the coarse side. You know, I wouldn't say that they're the most refined, smooth beads you'll ever see. So in that respect, it's kind of forgiving. Okay. Kind of like saying hello to an old friend. Hello, old friend. I haven't seen you in about 30 years. How you been? I don't even have any of the original ones I made. I made quite a few of them. I don't know where they are. Like so much of the stuff I have, I don't know where it is. Okay, so I don't really change it much either, you know? Like stretch it out or... You just cut the stuff away. Bake it, sand it. So that the star pattern doesn't get distorted, I guess. All right, so let us put a hole in our bead. And here we have a little chevron barrel. Okay. If I were to continue to cut, of course, it would be less barrel-like. You can continue to cut and expose more of the various layers, the reds and the blues and, you know, all the rest of it. Just keep chopping away at it. Okay, so let's cure this And I'll make a few more just the same way. I think I'm going to take this and reduce some. We'll reduce some of these down even further. And then let's see what we've got. All right, so my beads are cured. Here they are. Now, one thing, I'm looking at that white and it looks awfully white. No, it's changed a bit. Okay, that's fine. All right. Yeah, but nonetheless, it's whiter than it has been at some times. And what that says to me is my oven is tracking at about 275, not 3. Okay, so now we're going to sand. And I've got my Auburnet P120. And I'm not going to be shining this up. Some of these beads are very shiny, but the really, really old ones tend to be not as shiny. How else to say that? Yeah. And they're more pitted. Now mine aren't going to be very pitted. I should have done that before curing, but nonetheless, okay. I did go on the internet and I Googled Chevron beads, and you know, they do make these beads in many different colors. I tend to think of them as these colors though. Really purpley blue and red. So the ones I saw might be actually newer. Okay, so I'm just trying to smooth out the cuts. All right. And if I sand away to white, that's okay. That happens. In other words, like this right there. That's okay. Okay. So let me keep sanding, just like this, just trying to smooth everything out a bit. Then I shall return. So I sanded it first with P120, I moved to P180, I finished off with P600. Okay. Then, Nivea. Now, it isn't shiny. It isn't high gloss. If it were high gloss, it'd probably be better. It'd probably look a little more translucent. But my translucent, I'm using Kato, is not as translucent as others. You guys know that already. So, if you use something like Primo Cernit is probably the most clear, then you're going to get a more translucent or transparent color in through here. Now, the bad thing is those clays are really sticky, so it's harder to work. They're harder to work with. So you got to balance these things out. Anyway, here is a nice little chevron bead. Looks like a chevron to me. Now, if I were to make this shinier, as I said, it probably would look more translucent or transparent than it does now. It always does. So anyway, that's it. Oh, I'll be back. Okay, we are at the end. Before sanding, after sanding. Now this class was in response to a request. I think it was from Scott, I think. And so I was very happy to do it. I enjoyed making them. Now, I want to show you one thing, because here's proof I never throw anything away. See this cane? This is one of my original canes. Yeah, I think it's made out of ProMat. Now, ProMat hasn't been in production for about 35 years, but I hung on to this. Now, I don't think I can reduce it. It's got a crack straight in the middle. And canes like this old, tend to never heal. I mean, I could just squeeze and squeeze and squeeze on the outside, and if it's got a break in it, it just doesn't want to come together. See, I push this way and I got another crack moving the other direction. But, hey, here it is. It's an oldie. It's really old. Before my first book in 1997. So this is a very old cane. All right. So that's enough for today. I hope you make lots of chevron beads. Go on the internet and Google and take a look at some of the other colors, because some of them are quite beautiful. But, you know, you make this, you get your traditional sort of star pattern there. And I think these are just fine. They're not as transparent, and we talked about that a little bit before, but I like them quite a bit. And I think it'd be more transparent with these smaller ones. Right? Because you're thinning out that, you're thinning everything out, as a matter of fact. The other thing I might do, if I ever do this again, remember when we had the discussion in the beginning about the triangles? Right angle triangle as opposed to an equilateral triangle? Well, maybe a shallower triangle would have been better too, because then the distance from the very deepest part to the surface would have been reduced. That means there's less clay to see through. So if I ever make this again, I will use a more shallow triangle here, and that may probably, I think that would also help. All right, so until later, I am, you know, your teacher, Donna, and I am signing off. Bye. Hello, peeps. You know, this little tutorial on making a lariat and using chevrons is kind of a companion to the chevron bead class. You know, I've been thinking about lariats for quite a while. They're so simple to make. You don't need a clasp or anything. And, you know, that makes them kind of ideal. They're also really good for beads. And if you're like me, you don't necessarily want to make beads and string beads and beads and beads and beads, right? Maybe it's just my laziness. I don't know. I'm going to have to think about that. Anyway, I mean, I could even put, like, maybe make small volley beads, put them on the end too. Thing is, you probably don't want anything that's really, really, really heavy, because if you put something heavy on a lariat like this, what's going to happen is it's going to tighten like that. You'll have a choker, and then this will be long, right? So it's probably better to sort of pick something that's not really, really heavy, okay? So that the friction, see, I can tighten it here, so that just the rubber, it doesn't slide as freely as, let's say, chain. So, you know, it's not just going to like that. But I think you want something that's not terribly heavy. Okay, so what follows is simply making the lariat. And that is it. You can never have too many ways to use the things you make, right? All right, time for class. So let's make a lariat. Yeah, so I've got my rubber cord, And I'd like to have 2 chevron beads at the ends. I think that would really be pretty. So I've reduced my cane down to, approximately 5/8, maybe however many 16ths that is. All right, and it is 1 3/16 inch long. Now, because I'm just going to glue this into the end, there's not going to be any hole, not like bead, right? So what I'm going to do is just what we did before to make a chevron bead, and that is just, you just start cutting the corner away and you just kind of shape it. And as you cut, of course, you're exposing more of the pattern. Now we're going to cure it and then we'll sand it after. But you know, I've seen these kinds of beads and that are actually pretty coarse. They're pretty rough. Not necessarily without corners. Like that, for instance. Okay, so let me just kind of cut the top off a bit like so. I'd like the bead to be a little bit elongated, not too short barreled, but kind of a long barrel, if you know what I mean, which probably means I have to cut a bit more from the sides, like so. All right, so I would like the points to extend a little farther down. So let's hit it on this side, and this side is not going to come to an exact point, I don't think, but sort of pointed. Now all of this great scrappage, I just mix it together and it forms that nice kind of scrap clay violet. I think you're probably familiar with that. If you work with clay, you've probably made more than your share of scrap clay violet. I know I have. All right. Yeah, I think these are going to be great beads at the end of my Lariat. I think I could put anything at the end. Kind of like this idea. Okay. I'll just try to make this. It's just going to be nicely rounded at the end. Like so. So you see I cut a little bit more. I'll round this to a soft point. And then here is where I don't care if this is a bit on the flat side, because I'm going to drill a hole right in the center there. And that is where my cord is going to go. Okay. All right, so one is pretty much done. Now I have to do the other one. So let me cut that, pop these in the oven, and then I will be back. So my beads are done. They're still a little warm. You know, just in case, I'm gonna see how much progress I can make with Abranet P600. See how fine it is? Yeah. If I can make good progress, then maybe I'll make these shiny. Maybe I'll shine them up. P120 and P180 are so coarse, they they gouge the surface of the clay. So it's kind of hard, you know, if you want a high gloss finish. This is not bad. I have to work a little harder. But let me give this a go. And just see. Yeah, it's not too bad. Not too bad. Okay, so I will continue doing that. And then when I finish sanding my beads, I will return. All right, I sanded one. I got tired of sanding and going nowhere. So this is P120. Here's the sanded one, and here's the unsanded one. Something's cured. Okay, so let me get the other one done. Then I'll be back. Yeah, I got really tired of sanding with that. All right, let's drill our beads. Now I'm just going to drill into one end, and that's going to be glued into the cord. Now the cord, my cord, is 5 feet long. It is. Yep. 5 feet. Now which end? This, I think I'll drill into this end. So I'm going to put a pilot hole there. Let's see, which one? Which end? They look, this one, they look the same. Okay. Just like that. Is that the middle? Is that the middle? That's the middle. All right, so let's begin with a very tiny drill. Just like so. Like that. And yes, let's drill just a bit. Now I'm going to use this one. I believe this is the 2mm drill bit. Okay. Not bad. That's working. That is working. Oh, why not? Okay, dude. Should I drill you out a little more? You know, wouldn't hurt. Wouldn't hurt at all. Okay, that looks good. Let's get rid of that. Now I will do the other one, but let's just glue this in. So I'm going to use my Loctite. And if you haven't heard me talk about this before, this was in here, okay? And when I couldn't push any more glue out by squeezing here, I, on the advice of someone else, I actually broke the casing and released the glue. And you know how much, there is a ton of glue in here, a ton. I've been working on this, which was what I thought. I thought it was empty. It wasn't. Okay, so just remember that. And actually, I used a hammer. I just took a hammer and I just whacked. Okay, now I'm going to take this tiny little 2mm. See this guy? Well, this guy's got to get on this guy, which means I need this guy. Forceps. Put it on, open it up, slide the cord in, and slide it up. Ta-ta. Cindy Tagg taught me that, and she gave me my first pair of forceps. All right, so that's perfect. let us take glue. Ooh, see? Look at all this glue. Ooh. I'm such a terrible gluer. But see, this is all full up here. I would have thrown the whole thing away. I would have. Let me get rid of the excess glue. Push this guy down onto some of that excess glue. I think it's a nice finish. Just a little O-ring. Just a little bit of an O-ring. There's one. Now let me do the other one, and I will be back. So this is my finished lariat. Okay, so here are the beads. Let me just show you. Now, this piece of cord that I have is 2 millimeters, and it is 5 feet long. Okay, you can do it. You can make them shorter or longer, depends on what you want. And I just threw a 4 millimeter. Actually, this might be bigger than that. O-ring on just to keep the two pieces together. I don't necessarily want it that tight on the cord. It doesn't need to be. So then you just take your beads and you feed them through the loop. And here you go. You have a lariat. Okay. Ta-ta. You can even do something like that. That would probably help keep them in position as opposed to moving. The lengths moving. Okay, so that's cute. Simple, easy, wearable. Yeah, I wonder if 5 feet was too long. I'm gonna have to try this on. Yeah. All right.